All right. Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. This is the Park Committee meeting, video teleconference of April 11th, 2022. And so the first item on the agenda is to call the meeting to order. And the next item is consideration of ARPA funds for lighting and irrigation. Charlie Lewis. First of all, I guess we ought to go to Ann and kind of explain what you can and can't use ARPA funds for at this time. And then how that leads to funds for lighting and irrigation. Will you do that for us, Ann? And welcome, Ann.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, just anticipating some of the conversations we've been having. I reached out to Ncaa to get some advice on, how we could possibly use ARPA funds in certain ways. The advice that they gave us is that ARPA funds can't be used toward a larger project that would incur any kind of debt, that they really encourage ARPA funds be kept separately of projects like that. But for example, like a park project, if there are standalone components of a plan for Lakeview Park that can be funded separately and wholly with ARPA funds and be completed by the December 2026 deadline for the use of ARPA funds, that would be appropriate, but not as part of a larger project that would be, for example, incur some ongoing debt. So they really are cautioning us against mingling those kinds of funding together. So that's kind of, I think, where this conversation has led to.
Okay. Squire Tracy.
And if you don't care, can you put that in writing and who you spoke to with Ncaa? I think that would be great.
Yes, I can. It was from Rich Ornstein, and I'm glad to send you the email.
Please.
Sure.
Thank you. I know that in keeping up with Fayette County or Lexington, I know that they're talking in regards to using ARPA funds to do some projects over there too. So it would be great. That way it would just hit anything down the road. So,
absolutely. Be glad to send that out.
Thank you.
Okay. By the way, for the audience, those of you watching, the members of the Park Committee are Squire Scotty Tracy, Squire Michael Muller, and myself, Houston Wells. Okay. And now that leads to the possibility for lighting at the softball fields and irrigation. And you said that those funds would be could be used for these types of projects.
Those are things that we have, of course, talked about for a while now, that those are needed components of the park, and that would not, doesn't seem that they would interfere with a larger park project. They would just be part of the components that would be needed in any case. So for example, lighting of the softball fields. We've talked about that for a number of years, and we could accomplish that as an independent standalone project, as well as the irrigation repairs that Charlie has talked about.
A while back, we didn't we apply for a grant with the city for lights at the softball field?
We did apply for an economic development grant with the city of Frankfort. Unfortunately, they received 6 times the amount of funds that were available, so we did not receive that grant.
Okay. All right. Charlie, you want to speak to about irrigation? Start with irrigation.
I can. I've got some estimates for both projects, actually. The softball lighting project we've been talking about here for a few years now, that would fit nicely into the master plan. That would be lighting 2 new sets of lights for 2 fields, and then we already have 2 that are lit. That would be retrofit with new LED fixtures all the way around. That total project, the 2 new is $490,000, and the 2 retrofit is $230,000. That is an estimate. That's they gave me a range on the retrofit from 105,000 to 115. So I just used the 115 because of, gosh, you don't know with the way things are fluctuating with inflation. And then the range I got on the 2 new fields lit was a range of 235 to 245 per field. So I used the 245 to come up with that number, a combination of $720,000.
Okay. And Charlie, do you recommend that we change the lighting on the, it's already there?
I think for long-term, long-range utility payments, I think it would be good to have everything. You know, we've been doing an energy project, you know, throughout the county facilities. I think this would kind of tie into, you know, along those same lines of cost savings down the road.
Robert, as we did this energy plan, did they say that if we did some other things that could be considered as part of the, not the project, but the overall savings? I think we talked about with ESG that if later on we did some things like the softball lighting, that it could be part of the whole savings. Do you remember that conversation? And do you remember that conversation? Scotty, do you remember that conversation? You don't remember that?
No, I'm talking about here.
I know we talked about with ESG because it was so expensive to do it initially that we decided that it would be better for us to look at it and put it in
We did.
Separately.
Yeah, we did have some
It
conversations about
seems
the
like there was
softball
some
lighting.
conversation about that.
Yeah.
Perhaps it was that we could have them do the measurement verification for us of that.
On the savings, on the
Yeah.
electrical savings. That's what I was thinking that.
I think that's
there
what
was.
it's talking about.
I think I believe you're right on that, Robert. I believe that's what it was, yeah. Okay,
And there again, these are estimates. This is from Musto Lighting. Huge contractor. They do lighting all over the world. They're probably the #1 ranked. You know, they're putting in lights at the University of Alabama, University of Kentucky. I mean, the rep actually for this area just lives over in Scott County. So, you know, it was an easy connection for him to stop by the office. And, you know, he's been with us kind of he'll email me occasionally and say, hey, how's the project coming along? And, you know, especially with the master plan, things like that. So he's been very helpful as far as that goes. But there again, that's one company. You know, obviously this would be bid out if we get to that point. So this is just an estimate from this company.
if they talk about the scope of work, Charlie, about do they come in and they look at our poles and look at our electric and whether you have to go in and redo the electric and, or anything like that, and then they kind of make sure that, I guess you would have, as an engineer, you'd have to design, a lighting engineer, to make sure that our poles, whatever is there, we wouldn't have to add extra poles or anything like that.
Right, yeah, they have seen the layout of what we have existing. And they're able to utilize the existing poles and light, or, you know, the pole lights that we have, you know, with changing the retrofitting the fixtures over to LED. And then the power that's down there to supply the new fields does exist, and conversations I've had with KU leading up to this previously is, you know, it's one of those deals to where if you're going to use their power, they're going to supply it to you. You know, they're not going to come in there and charge you a big bunch of money to upgrade a transformer or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, there would be eventually engineering drawings and showing the foot candles of, you know, the lighting packages, things like that. Yeah, and a little more detail on this quote. The two new fields, I quoted it a little bit better level of lighting at 70 infield and 50 outfield foot candles, because those are the requirements for the NCAA. And this would give us an opportunity to regionally, if Kentucky State University wanted to host, or they were able to host a regional, then two of the fields would meet the minimum standards for lighting to host those games. The other two are a little bit less at 50 and 30, the retrofit. Now, we could do it all, the price just goes up.
When you said And that's intriguing about getting the NCAA. I guess that's Division II or whatever it is with KSU. Are the fences the same? Are the fences
There is a
appropriate for
minimum,
NCAA requirements?
yeah, and in the, like, in the park plan, if we get into doing some remodeling and upgrading those facilities, the fences on those two fields would have to go back to 225, I believe is the minimum. Right now, they're right around 200. Or maybe 215, something like that. And then there's actually a minimum, we've got 4-foot fences out there. They've got to have 6. So there would be some additional improvements necessary.
Okay.
Do you know what our cost is to light those fields right now, like per month for the old style lights? I'm just curious what it would do.
Remember, that's split with,
Yeah, the city helps us
actually,
out with
that's,
that.
that's all city, isn't it?
They do 4 months.
Well, that's virtually all,
They
yeah.
do May and June, they skip July, and then they do August and September.
Yeah.
But do we still get the bill here, then they reimburse us?
It's you can, and I think it's combined, those, the parking lot lights.
Mhm.
It's got a few things on it, but in the recurring expense reports, it'll
I
say,
think I remember seeing it
Yeah.
once, it's $1,000 a month or something.
yeah, it's up there. It's-
Roughly,
It's a
yeah.
big bill.
Yeah.
All right, any questions on softball for anybody else? Any questions? All right. Let's go to irrigation. Charlotte?
A golf irrigation, we got with a company, I don't have any actual paperwork in hand, but in discussions with a golf course irrigation company, they said to estimate $1,800 a head installed. And the improvements that we would need on the golf course and the driving range would be approximately 200 heads. So you're looking at a $360,000 project.
And that's all new. What does that consist of? Is that all new pipes, pumps?
That's brand new,
Everything.
gate to gate,
Clocks, timers,
everything.
everything,
Mhm.
all new.
And does that come with today's technology,
Yes,
works by phone or
Yeah.
computer and whatever?
smartphone technology,
Smartphone technology.
How many heads was it, Charlie?
200 estimated.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm giving you some high end side estimates. So I mean, I think actually we could probably beat both softball and golf numbers, but you just don't know. I mean, you gotta estimate high.
So now if those two projects alone would be $1 million,
Mhm.
or an estimated $1 million, maybe not quite, but an estimated $1 million for that. And Ann, you're saying that ARPA monies could be used for this?
Yes, these would be standalone projects that could be completed before the deadline for the use of ARPA funds.
All right,
Charlie, could you go ahead and, I think if we were to do it, and it's obviously up to the court and everything, but could you get a price to bring the other 2 fields up to the NCAA standards? Because for me, I think it makes more sense to have 4 legal fields to play than just 2,
Okay.
if you're gonna go that far.
well, but let me say this, Charlie. The NCAA standard would be for if Kentucky State did it. Does the NCAA standard fit the same standard for high school?
It's above. It's
Okay.
above.
So I wouldn't want to change that if it's going to hurt us getting softball teams here. Does that, obviously the fence is what it is for some reason, the distance
Mhm.
from home plate to the fence. So
Yeah, when those were in athletic association.
you if we change the standard high school athletic association standards.
I can't imagine
No.
why it would. I think you give you more options. I think
Yeah,
a
those-
college, Charlie, if I'm not mistaken, I think your length on a college field is 220. Your high school's 200. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say Kentucky High School is actually looking at it. A lot of your travel ball teams, especially your older girls, they're playing pretty much 220 anyway if they go out of the state. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's Charlie, we went through this. I think, was it 6-foot fence or 8-foot fence? When Kentucky State came up and talked to you.
6
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
6-foot minimum all the way around.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you go 220, the window of opportunity is a lot bigger than just 200.
Yeah, and with the high school, those were just minimums. They will play on bigger fields.
They will play on the
Yeah,
field, so
it doesn't affect it. Yeah. Yeah, but I'll get,
So what about sponsored KHSAA tournaments, regional tournaments and stuff like that? So they can play on
yes.
longer
Mhm,
fields?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
And the lighting, a lot of the lighting packages, the NCAA, those governing bodies will make these rules. A lot of it has to do with television. Because the better the lighting, the better the cameras can pick up the softball and just the game itself is how it's played. So that's the way that's the reason.
It's not about the safety of the players. It's not
No,
about
it's about
TV.
TV. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on softball? Charlie, when have people already, obviously there's some guys that look into softball tournaments. Have you signed anybody up to do softball tournaments for the summer already?
The city has.
The city-
The city
Are they
has-
going through the city?
Yeah, they go through the city because they maintain the field.
Okay,
Yeah, there's at least a dozen travel tournaments.
okay,
Yeah, they sent me a schedule of the summer up to this point, and they're pretty well booked all the way till
okay, so they're already.
through
booked.
October.
So we wouldn't want to put lighting in and hamper those tournaments, I guess.
Yeah,
Is that
a
right?
winter, fall to winter project would be ideal.
Okay,
Charlie, what do we rent those fields to for the city? Do you remember?
It's just an interlocal agreement that we have with the city.
So do we get any funds from them for all these tournaments and stuff? They keep it?
Mhm.
they don't either, do they?
It's minimal to rent the fields. It's
The agreements that they maintain the fields.
yeah, they have to take care of it all.
And then pay the electric.
They've got 4 months of electric on them and yeah, I can't remember what the field rentals, $100 a
I
field.
think it's $100 a day, Charlie. It's either 100 or 150 a day per field.
Per
So
field, yeah.
Do we do any rentals ourselves, or is
Mhm.
everything through the city?
We do not. It's all through. the
everything's
city.
through the city.
Okay,
Even KSU using them?
They've gone downtown to State Stadium.
KSU has?
Mhm.
Why is that?
Because of the size of the field.
Oh,
The
that's
city.
big. Okay.
you said all around for NCAA standards. Could you replace the outfield fence out of bounds, I mean, this way only and make it a 6-foot fence?
It's all the way around. It's
It has
foul
to be all the way around?
balls. Yeah, home runs and foul balls are at 6, and then there's a backstop requirement. A lot of that's for the safety end of it, but with foul balls, a lot of those can go low and line drive. So I mean, there's a safety thing in there for the minimum requirements there. I don't know the height on that, but foul lines and home runs are 6.
Okay. Do we meet the minimum requirements, NCAA standards for the backstop?
Probably. I mean, it's got some age on it. looking at the overall master plan, I mean, if we could afford to, if we're gonna do, if we're looking at turf fields and new dugouts and on down the line, I mean, I would, new fencing would be, part of the project, I would think.
Absolutely.
You've seen it, I'm sure, Charlie, as well as me, that many of these complexes have, I would assume you call it a tarpaulin top over the bleachers area too.
Some shade?
Some shade.
Shaded.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's come a long way. Yeah, those are getting more affordable, easier to install. They come with bleacher packages now where you can get the bleachers. They'll go in and you pour pads, set the posts, set the shade, set the bleachers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okey-doke. All right, any other questions? All right. Now let's look at, the next item on the agenda is, discussion of sports authority. So I guess the question is what is the goal here? Is hiring a new sports authority or sending out an RFP asking, to give us information on a sports authority? I don't, and let's go back and review with what has been sent to the National Park Service. You're expecting several months before any kind of decision is made on what we can or can't do with this master plan. Is that correct?
The estimate the Department for Local Government gave me was at least 3 months.
Okay, at least 3 months. All right, so sports authority would actually, to have one in place, it would actually have to be for next year anyway to do anything, and only thing that would be available at that time would be softball. Is that correct? That's my thought. Okay. Scotty, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I was going to see if Ann could share that information that she received back from DLG in regards to the multi-use facility. I know you had touched on it. You'd made reference that they said as long as it dealt with recreation, that they wouldn't see a problem. Can you share that email with me as well?
Sure, and that's not exactly what they said. Was that what the considerations when the National Park Service reviews it will be how much outdoor recreation is affected. It needs to still have a majority outdoor recreation focus. And so that's how I tried to write the narrative in the letter that went with the application, is to outline what recreation would still be there, and that the funded projects that we had used federal funds for would not be eliminated, those kinds of things. But I'd be happy to share with you what DLG has sent me.
Okay. And if you don't care, could you share the letter that you actually sent to the parks, the national parks as well?
Certainly.
Okay. Thank you.
I thought they already got that. Did they not get that? I thought they got that. So Ann, it seems to me like one of the, I'm gonna use, for lack of a better word, albatrosses in this situation is a convention center as part of this facility. Is that correct? That they're looking at?
I think that would be a question of whether or not they consider the size of the facility and the amount that would not be specifically outdoor recreation. So that will be, of course, their call, how they interpret that.
I see that, yeah. Okay, doke. All right, Sports Authority. I don't know, Scotty and Michael, you asked for it. I'm not sure what you're asking for here. We have no really clue this early in the game. So you wanted this to be on the agenda, so you all speak up.
Well, I mean, for me, I think it's trying to figure out, I think everyone's kind of like, how are we going to pay for it? I mean, that's kind of where we are. So, I mean, to me, and I think that's one of the things that we had early on talked about to the Hitchcock group, as far as how do we pay for it without raising local people's taxes and things like that. So that's where I'm at with it, to try to figure out the next piece to the puzzle. I mean, I think this is a long-term project, you know. and-
So you're saying Sports Authority is the conduit to tell us financially how we do this?
Mhm. I don't know if it's called Sports Authority. I mean, this is not what I do. I mean, you know, I don't know what the exact verbiage is, but trying to figure out, yeah, sports commission, sports authorities, things like that. You know, I know E-Town did it, you know, and it's basically just a little bit extra on certain bills, you know, that are basically paid for by tourists to help pay for the whole thing. So, yeah, I think we just need to keep heading in the right direction to try to figure it out.
So we need to be specific, because if we're gonna send out and you all, Squire Tracy, you said you wanted on the agenda, an RFP for a sports authority, so what do you think ought to be in that RFP?
Well, I think if you go back to the proposal that was sent to us on February the 10th by the consulting group, they kind of touched on it. You got to analyze the existing convention and tourism organizations, the agreements between them or between all of us. I think we have to probably evaluate the present transient room taxes. We have to look at that. I think you have to collaborate with the city and the current CVB board in regards to future or continued funding per se. Again, I think when you look at how it's been done by the professionals, I think Sparks said it best. He's not a professional, but let's do it right. When you look at it, you're not, if it's a sports commission, you're not looking at a restaurant tax. Restaurant tax is another tax, just another tax on the locals that eat at the small businesses and the small restaurants every day through the week. That's what a restaurant tax gets you. The sports commission tax is something that they done down in McCracken County. You can look it up on Paducah Sun. It's been very successful. Again, they are a little different from us because they already had a convention center. We lost ours, but they already had one. So all they had to do was go in and buy the what I would call interchangeable, the flooring per se. And, over 15 months, it brought in $33 million to their community. So when I hear sports commission and I think of sports commission, I think of it that way. I think of the mirror what those guys and gals have done in that area. And it has proven to be successful. It works. So let's hire a professional. Let's get it done. And then they can come back to us and tell us if it's going to work or not. So
You're saying that you're hiring a professional to evaluate and construct a possibility of a sports authority to pay for the park at the proposed facilities at Lakeview Park.
yeah.
Jim.
So again, from my research, what I can find out from down there, they created a sports commission, and it is separate from the CVB board.
This is the CVB board. What are you talking
It's
about?
the convention. It's the convention center. Tourism. It's the tourism, what we call Franklin County Tourism. So in that area down there, from what I can find out, is the city of Paducah allowed the McCracken County to part ways. They separated, but still have one goal in mind, which is to get tourists to their community. When they separated, McCracken County, they implemented, or they created a sports tourism commission. When they created that sports tourism commission, that allowed them to levy an additional hotel tax of 3%, or vice versa, or the city to do the 3%. But it allowed the community to put another 3% on hotel rooms. So not your locals, not the guys that are living in your community. It's the individuals that are coming into the community for their destination park. Again, that indoor facility, $33 million to the economy is what it was worth over 15 months. And that's through COVID. I've got the article. I can share it with you if you'd like to read it. It's very tough.
I don't have it in front of me, so I can't dispute or agree with you, but we have been presented, or at least I have, by Robin Antonucci, that if we increase only in the county, because we're very limited on our hotels, that if we increase the hotel tax by 3%, we would get $170,000. And $170,000 is not going to cover a $60 million building in any way whatsoever. So
Yeah,
I don't know where you're getting 33 million. How in the world could
Judge,
you increase tax 3%, get $33 million in 15
Judge,
months?
you're not listening to me. The indoor facility, their indoor facility. So their convention center, they've got a convention center. We don't. Ours was torn down, unfortunately. Their convention center, their multi-use indoor facility with the tournaments that they have thrown over a 15-month period of time brought in $33 million to the economy.
To the economy.
I'll send the article to Tambra just as soon as we get done and you can read it.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
that's what I'm talking about.
And that's indirect. So so that's hard to equate coming back and paying for it. I mean, it increases the businesses, but it doesn't always that's not a dollar for dollar back to paying for it.
Correct,
Anyway.
but one weekend they had 125 teams. That's not counting parents. That's not counting siblings. That's not counting grandparents. They had 125 teams in their community for the weekend. Now, if we could get half of that, if we could just get half of it, you're looking at thousands of people over a weekend. That's coming in.
What kind of sport was that softball? What was
If I had to get, no, it's in the indoor facility. That was their indoor facility.
Okay, and their indoor facility is in the convention center? Their convention center is an indoor recreation facility and a convention center?
It's in Paducah, so it's the convention center. I would assume. I don't know what the name of it is. I've never been there. I just read the articles about it. I don't know what the layout of it is. I know in Lexington, they've got a facility over there that does multi-use sports, volleyball and basketball. And it's my understanding that it's number 2. It's the second. It ranks number 2 in regards to generating revenue for that area over there and behind UK sports or UK athletics per se.
One of them is shut down. It's been there for my kids, I think, for years. So, okay. We need some. Robert, you need to ask questions on what needs to go in this RFP. I think we've been kind of all over the board on it, but what do you think we need to, what questions you need to ask to get a clarification upon to write an RFP? Obviously for a consultant to look at the financial aspects of
What Hitchcock gave us, can we copy and paste a little bit? I think they turn in some stuff, kind of guide us in the direction.
In terms of things we ought to look for.
Yeah.
Definitely we'll look at that because.
Yeah,
Don't have on hand.
right.
Otherwise, I really don't have any questions right now. And I appreciate whoever said it. I think it was Squire Tracy referenced it as a sports commission. So, let me do some research under both the sports authority or sports commission. Let me see, because I'm not really sure if they're an actual firm. Are they a quasi-governmental entity?
The 501c3s.
Nonprofits, that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
I need to research and learn more about that activity, that use, that agency, whatever we want to call them.
Bluegrass Sports Commission in Lexington and the Louisville Sports Commission, they're nonprofit organizations.
Okay. So in terms of RFP, I can.
we've gone one way and another way. And so what you're talking about is going full-fledged, this is gonna be the commission. What I thought we were talking about in this RFP was to bring somebody in to look at, not to run it, but to give us some ideas on how to pay for this financially, this facility. And maybe they will say, well, you need to form a sports commission or whatever to do this, and this is what you need from this sports commission. But it sounds to me like we're going another way, saying, let's just go on and bring a sports commission in to run it.
Well, I mean, that's where my research will come in. That'll help me, guide the committee. Hey, this is actually what they are in this state versus that state or something. And here's their function and here's how they play a role in our project. That's what I'll be doing. I don't know anything about them at the moment, so I'll just dive in on it and see what they are and how they operate and what benefit it has to us.
Well,
And I want to check the statutes also, see if there's anything in there.
okay, so,
Because taxing, what Squire Tracy said, an entity that has the ability to impose a tax, that should be covered in KRS. So I'll search that as well.
I've got some info I can share.
yeah,
with
you
Okay,
you
thanks.
probably need to meet with Robert Ncaa too.
Okay, sure. Be happy to.
I don't know whether we can have this on for the agenda the 22nd. Squire Tracy, that was your goal, was to make sure it's on there for the 22nd. I don't think.
The fiscal court agenda. I mean, it's a, let's say the 11th. I mean,
It has to be done by a week from today,
well,
right, Tamara?
not actually the RFP, just the authority by the court to authorize the issuance of an RFP for X, right?
Okay.
So I don't have to have it done in a week.
Okay, so that's all that'll be on the agenda is to authorize.
To issue an RFP for,
But that's not what you were wanting, Squire Tracy. What do you want?
No, I mean, I can go along with Robert. Like I said, I think between now and then, we can all do homework on it. I was just giving an example of what they done. That doesn't mean it's going to work for here. Obviously, there are people that are here doesn't want to see it happen. And so I'm just trying to figure out what works best for here to move something along that the community wants and was approved by the court. Again, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make sure that this plan doesn't go on the shelf with all the other plans that are on the shelf.
So, where does the city come in here? Obviously, McCracken County and Paducah work together. We have not included the city in any bit of this plan at all, not a bit.
I guess that'd be a great question. I mean, they were invited. They had a representative, the same guy that went and visited the pool. So they were invited to to participate in our park study. And I just touched on collaborating with the city and the existing CVB in regards to continued funding. So, I mean, I did touch on that. I'm not sure if the city, I know they didn't reach out to me. I can't speak for anyone else. I know that they adopted a master plan for their parks long before we did. I don't know if they reached out to us to see if they wanted our 2 cents per se, but I know no one contacted me, but I touched on the city right here collaborating with them. So I think it has to happen. But again, I think it has to be by someone that again, I go back to what Spark says, someone that knows what they're talking about.
this is a question, I guess, for anyone. Is it, anyone here familiar with Gus Macker, which is a basketball tournament? You heard of that? So, I was in the JCs and we helped to sponsor the Gus Macker 3-on-3 basketball tournament. And I thought of that because talking about the city, in which there were courts set up like on Main Street and Maple and all this kind of stuff. And it went on for the whole weekend. Would Squire Tracy, what you're talking about on this sports commission, you think, have you heard of them doing something like that as well? And could it also include golf tournaments and all that stuff? Some way to partner with the city to hopefully bring in more revenue? taking out
I'm
that.
not sure, Robert. I like that idea. I like the idea of doing that outside. I know Charlie's probably been involved with the dirt bowl and things of that nature that used to take place outside. And, but I'm not sure to answer your question. I don't.
Well,
I'll research that
yeah,
too.
when you're looking at them, and like I say, I want to help you. These commissions, like in cities our size are much bigger. In Lexington, for example, the Bluegrass Sports Commission, they go after, a midnight summer run, and they go after Barbasol Golf Championship over King Trace. I mean, they're involved heavily with all that, and they've got a board of like 22 people.
Wow.
And they of course, they take in tons of volunteers to run these big sporting type events. So, I mean, it's pretty involved. And
So it sounds to me like, if you don't mind, it sounds like, they're not gonna be taking over Lakeview Park, or they're not gonna be taking over Capitol View Park. They're just almost like the promoter, if you will.
oh, yeah, definitely a marketing.
That's what I would think as well, Robert.
Okay, all right, now it's starting to.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it is time to start talking to the city, because even if you remember when the Hitchcock group drew our plan, we have 3 multi-use fields, and they said, you need 5 to 6 in order to get the big tournament. So, I mean, I think at some point we need to sit down with them and look at it on a big scale.
I agree. And like I've talked with the judge in the past, in Parks and Recreation, we need to be one unit in our community. I mean, that's my 2 cents. That's my opinion. But there no longer needs to be any division as we move forward to try to make this a better, more viable community, especially from a Parks and Recreation standpoint. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, unfortunately, in the city's master plan, they've got an indoor facility. They're looking at a possible building an indoor facility. I mean, my God, they spent $125,000, we spent $187,000 and want to spend more. So we're looking at over $300,000 in master plans for 2 separate parks.
Where are they talking about doing an indoor
They
facility? I
just
don't remember
mentioned
seeing
it.
that.
That's what.
Yeah, it's
We're saying that.
They didn't pick.
Yeah,
a
it's
location.
mentioned
Said it was
that.
in the- Oh,
Yeah, that came from Sean. It was mentioned. It's been talked about. It's not actually drawn into it. What is drawn into it is priority is an indoor swimming pool. So that's great that they recognized that the need for that. So hopefully when talks are going on that we can find out where they're at in regards to that as a priority.
Well, I don't think just talk about it. I think what we need to do is collaborate.
Do they have a current city parks board like we do, like this?
Yes.
So what do you think about getting the 2 of us together? I think it's possible.
Well, yeah, it's possible, but their board is not elected board. Their board is volunteers.
Right.
That makes decisions for their parks.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, they've got a couple more. I mean, it might be 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah.
To me, I think it's time to sit down with them and throw it all on the table.
Well, I think right today, our discussion is sports authority. The sports authority is hugely gonna lead into, based on what's all been said, that it ain't gonna work unless the city is a partner in this. So they'll have to tell us the format to get how you work together and collaborating with the different
How to
room
create.
taxes and all of that stuff. Because that's
It
gonna
might be easier for us to do all that work first and then bring them in instead of the other way around.
Well, it's the first step is first, and that is we need to have them tell us what they're gonna do, what they can do, and this is the way you gotta do it. So that leads to the next step, which is, okay, now we need to talk to the city, because
Right.
I don't know what we're talking to them about at this point in time.
Well, right, exactly.
Uh-huh. So, all right,
So I guess everybody's gonna do a little homework, try to figure out the direction we're going, and
Charlie,
I
you.
might go back through the
you and
Hitchcock
Rob-
stuff
you
and
and
pull
Robert
some
gonna
stuff
look
out
at
of
it.
there to see.
You all review the Hitchcock
Yeah.
plan and what they've said.
Yeah.
Cameron, you put on the agenda to an RFP I guess, how would we say it, RFP, on,
Robert,
hiring an authority to,
advertise.
Authorization to
It's to
advertise or request
advertise.
for proposals for
Professional.
sport, yeah, professional sports
Commission.
blank
Services.
services, yeah.
Mhm.
Sports commission, sports authority.
Professional sports? You wanna go there?
Oh, yeah, there's no professional in there.
Hey, Charlie, jump in,
yeah.
both feet. Go for it, buddy. I like it.
Oh,
Be like the hot rods down Bone Green.
Oh, yeah.
Minor league team.
So is it to create the sports
No, just
authority or to,
authorize to advertise,
Advertise.
request for proposals.
to advertise for?
Sports commission services, something like that.
Mhm.
That's
I think that's the right word.
Yeah, it's just like a bid, if you choose not to do it, I mean, you're not committed by
Yeah.
doing this.
so Ann, what, you've been kind of quiet. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that there's precedence for working together with the city. That's how we approached that economic development grant. And it was a great application. It just happened to be that they didn't have enough money in that particular program to fund some really good projects. But for example, by combining our resources with the city's resources, we were going to be able to offer a larger number of fields and facilities than anybody in our region. So that's the way we approached it, by using Capitol View Park and Lakeview Park, improving the ball fields at both, that we had more as a community to offer, for example, larger tournaments. So I think that there's great willingness to work together. And, I know that on the staff level, there has been for many years, we've worked together. We actually, we used to arrange so that when it came to things like recreation grants, we would alternate years of requests so that we weren't competing with each other. Now, the last few years that hasn't happened, but I think that especially on the staff level, there's always been great willingness to work together for the benefit of the community. So I think that's a great direction to move.
If I could add, I think if the city can come to the table, it increases the scale, which I think would be more attractive.
City's gonna have to come to take.
Yeah,
That-
because otherwise I think
Yeah.
Lakeview Park just,
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
there's just not enough.
It's gonna be group effort.
Right. So I mean, and so this authority, if they can do golf tournaments and soccer and baseball and tennis and all this kind of stuff, well, then we need to be together on it.
okay. Everybody's got the marching orders. Squire Tracy.
I guess this question is for Charlie. Charlie, have you had any conversations, or has anybody had any conversations with the school systems in regards to the park plan that was passed about being a potential partner?
No, not since we've passed it, no.
Okay,
No,
I know we're talking more fields, more this, more that. I know in the master plan, there were 2 additional multi-use turf fields. And, if you're thinking about, that could potentially be 5 there, 6 if you go with the high school, 7 if you go with Western Hills, 9 if the city follows through and does the 2 at Capitol View. That would be circulation through our community, people eating and staying everywhere to play those sports that are played on those type of fields. So
I'm sure that their eyes are wide, hearing all the discussions with the park, both parks.
So
city,
that's an
county,
interesting discussion. If without that indoor facility, we still have enough fields, I guess, Charlie, to do many different traveling soccer tournaments, whatever age group. We also have enough fields to do many different softball tournaments. And you said they're already booked for next year. So.
This year. Yeah.
Or, yeah, I mean, for this year, yeah, that's, this authority would have to look at what we're doing now too, to see if there was any collaboration, any way that we could do more or something along that line too.
In that interlocal agreement, is there a termination clause?
Oh, yeah.
There has-
Yeah. Yeah, it's, we renewed it 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and it's up for renewal next, it's through 23. It's up for renewal, the city county one.
Why would we want to terminate?
Well, I'm saying if the sports authority takes it over, I mean, if they become in an entity here, then there's 4 fields
Yeah.
off the table that city controls. They're ours.
Well, but then again, the flip side of that is we need to collaborate with the city.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be a group effort.
Yeah, I mean, we may have to redo that contract, but see, currently, a big part of that agreement that we have is their maintenance that they bring to the table and maintaining those facilities.
because of their equipment.
Yeah, and they run the leagues. They hire those summer helpers down there, we've got all that coordinated where the county's not out the money, going down there and spending hours and equipment maintaining those fields, and then the city's getting the league money or anything like that. It's all, hey, the county is providing you with a 4-field softball complex. You run it. That's it. Weekend tournaments, local leagues, however you want to do it.
Okay.
Use of the fields.
Yeah. And then they help us out with utilities.
Like what we were trying to get done, still, hopefully we'll get done with the sand volleyball. That they'll start getting, that the city will get their leagues coming out there.
Yeah.
Because I did talk with Clint about it, and
They probably want lights.
he said lights would be great, but right now they've got Juniper is adequate for the number of teams they have. Okay. All right, any other questions? Any other business? Squire Tracy?
I guess my question would be, where are we at in regards to the light conversation and the irrigation system for the golf course? Where are we at on that?
Well, neither one of those could be done at this point in time, so, and it would be part of ARPA, it would be a different committee that would have to take the request to look at those funds, and it'd have to be done in the winter time to do it. Charlie, when do you think bids, if you were gonna do that, when would you do bids for that project, those things? In the summertime? In the fall?
Yeah, summertime leading up to the fall.
Okay.
And this is kind of a new process or newfound money on our end. So I think it's great, it's the opportunity's there, but it's a matter of, you guys approving the projects and then moving forward from there about, putting out invitations to bid.
My 2 cents will be bid as soon as possible, because I mean, we're waiting months and months on materials and especially electrical.
Mhm.
So I mean, even though, we're booked for most of the year already, so I think if you're gonna get on somebody's, if it were, the
For
court
construction,
oh,
yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
So to circle back to something that Ann said, in regards to this ARPA money that could be used for existing amenities, that's great to hear, because ultimately that means we could do the motorsports arena, the master plan upgrades to the motorsports arena, and we could also do the upgrades to the whole softball complex, considering it's already existing. So if we were going to do lights, why wouldn't we go ahead and just do it all?
Because there's not an infinite amount of money there. We don't have ARPA money that limited supply of money.
So how much is left? How much ARPA money is left?
Well, right now, the committee has recommended, well, this group is I think it's about 3 million that's been reserved out of this first group. The second group is 2 2 million, no. We have to do 3 million has to come from, for, broadband. So we have to have 2 million out of the next one and another million from, out of the next one coming up in May would be for, sewers, and another would be 600,000 for, the water district. So you're looking at about 2.5 million
2.5 million is available.
is
For recreation.
unencumbered right now.
Okay.
And the money that was spoken in regards to, that's been set aside through the ARPA committee, when will that be presented to the court?
It already has been permitted. You all voted on that a long time ago.
So all that money's been committed?
Not for the second phase, no, but for the first phase, yes.
Okay, so for the second phase, when will that come before the court?
Probably when we get it, not till May.
Okay, so we've got
We wanna
2.5
make
million.
sure
the
we
way it
got that
looks.
in hand first.
So as far as bidding, is that another agenda item that needs to authorization to bid?
No, not yet.
So we're, okay.
You want to take, the request to just have them make a motion to, move the request to the ARPA committee
Two,
for the irrigation and the lighting,
okay.
for the ARPA committee to consider.
And
Honestly, I'm fine with the irrigation. I'm fine with that, but I think it would be foolish to go in and put up lights and knowing that you're gonna, and just in what we're talking today, potentially extending the fields to where we could be eligible to have college tournaments, upgrading I think the shade. So you're looking at the bleachers and all that. If you're going off the master plan, to put lights in, I think would be premature if you're not going to do it all. So I would think we just go to the committee and ask to put out something. Robert, help me, but I would think we put out something to do the complex. The money's there, 2.5 million. So, and then the motorsports, again, it's existing. So there's no reason we can't go on and look at that too. But I mean, it's just me talking out loud.
I'd have to go back to the full court for that. Well,
Right.
actually, they have to go back to the ARPA committee first and then back to the full court. We don't have that money yet anyway, so I don't like to make all those recommendations until we've got that, bring it to the court till we have the money in hand.
Charlie, have you talked to anybody about fencing, just out of curiosity?
I ballparked it with Rio Grande down there, and it was at least $500,000.
And fencing, well,
Yeah, it's gonna be a,
It was,
well, $1.5 million, at least $1.5 million project, so it might, I think Scotty may be right, we have to include that in a bigger picture, monies than ARPA monies.
And did you say that lights were or were not eligible for ARPA funds?
They would be a standalone project, an improvement, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. All right, Robert, do you understand where you're going?
Yes, sir.
Cameron, do you understand what we need on the 22nd?
We'll have a line on the agenda and Robert will prepare an abstract.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, Charlie, you have anything else?
I don't, lots of good info.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right.
Yep.
We're all in favor, so
Yep.
we are adjourned.